Here, and are you still not subscribed to Matt's channel? Well, if you're not, hit the subscribe button because he's giving out free picks each and every week. Hope you have a good rest of your day.
UFC 293 live from Australia, Sydney, Australia. ADESANYA versus Strickland. Weaker card, guys, especially for a pay-per-view event. Lots of Aussie fighters on the main card, and I guess that's why it's kind of watered down here. A very random flyweight fight on the main card due to Car friends dropping out. Not impressed with the UFC on this one. However, you make fights every week. You're going to have some watered down cards. But because it's on pay-per-view, you're a little disappointed. I'll be breaking down the main card like usual, providing free picks, leans, price talk, and what to avoid. We're rolling in the UFC right now. 7 straight profitable client cards. A bunch of free winners every week for you guys. Back-to-back perfect cards. 2-0 last week for clients, 68% on the year, guys. That's 58 and 28. Average line plus money. That's what key here, guys. All right, it's not minus 250, minus 200s like you'll find some out there. These are average line plus money. Most of my cards that I send out are plus money. Not all the time. Not all the time. Sometimes you can't get to the plus money due to not being able to find an outcome, right? I can't always find an outcome on a favorite. So sometimes you do have to play the favorite price. But the average line is plus money. Keep that in mind, guys. 70% two-fight parlays. We've been doing very well in two-fight parlays. You know me, I don't play anything bigger than a two-fight parlay. Usually at plus money. Sometimes if you can't get there, it's minus 120, minus 110. But most of the time, you're going to find that plus money. We're just under 70 units long-term, guys. UFC Paris recap. Let's do a recap for you guys. Perfect free card, like I mentioned. Plus 2-0 on client bets. Both plus money winners. Now, the plus money, obviously, this is what I love doing, right? You had Gone, big favorite, right? Gone, big favorite to win the fight. You can't bet it at that money line price. So what do? You find an outcome. And I had the plus 120 on the finish. Back-to-back years, he has finishes in Paris. Loves to fight at home. And he needed to prove a point here that he was still a player for the belt. And he was able to do that, right? Spivak wasn't able to get any wrestling going. That was the only threat. I'll even admit I was a little worried if Spivak was able to get a takedown. But he wasn't able to, right? Gone, like I mentioned in the video, he's going to be training the last 5-6 months just with really good wrestlers. And that's what he did. He was able to move well. He was going to be so much better on the feet. That's what allowed me to bet this price and bet on Gone, even if the wrestling wasn't on his side, was because his movement on the feet, and he had a huge striking advantage. Spivak is a terrible striker, guys. It showed there. Couldn't pull the trigger. Didn't know what he was doing on the feet. Just trying to block punches the whole time. So Gone had a big advantage there. Fighting at home, there was enough for me to pull the trigger. We got that plus 120 instead of his big favorite price. We also had a two-fight parlay. Big price at plus 159. We had Rose and Ferro goes the distance. No way that fight was ending unless you see some wild head kick or something that ended that fight, or a cut. And Saint Denis, I was backing. Very high on Saint Denis. France should be excited for what they have in him. I expect him to be top 15 ranked if he isn't already. I like what I see out of the guy. Tough return for Rose. She hurt her finger in round 1. That's tough. That's tough to see. It was a close fight. I thought she did enough. She didn't do enough damage, though. Fro did more damage. She wasn't able to get any takedowns. Fro is just a bit better on the feet, and that's what I mentioned in the video, guys. If this fight stays standard for 3 rounds, Fro's going to win on exchanges, and that's what she was able to do. Close, but Fro was the right winner in that fight. Systemsportscapping.com or link.me/systemcapping for subscription opportunities. Pays off to be a long-term client, guys. profitable each year in all sports. Another big UFC year rounding up here with a few months left. Worldwide clientele and following. I got clients and followers like from Greece, Spain, UK, North America, Australia. It is much appreciated, guys. System capping on all social media. Free plays over there, sports betting news, and everything system capping. I'll be in Vegas this week until Friday or Saturday. I haven't figured that out yet. I did both these videos a little earlier on Wednesday prior to leaving. Also hoping to join a podcast out there, a podcast guest out there. So that will be interesting. See, I think it's at Circa. So I'll be out there. Look out for my Instagram stories. I'll be posting from Vegas for the short time I'm there. I'll be there for like maybe 2 days, not too long. I want to be back home to watch all the NFL games, etc. But I'll be back. I'll probably be in Vegas towards the end, either do a NFL weekend and just watch games out there. I'll be meeting up with a couple clients as well while I'm out there. So yeah, if you want to give me a shout, I'll be out there for a few days. Tomorrow, NFL Week 1 breakdowns will be out, guys. Look out for that. Look out for that. I'll be breaking down a few big games on the weekend. Provide some free plays as well. Excited to be busier now. Let's hear from my friend Kristen, ex-lingerie football player, now model, and race car driver.
The NFL season is around the corner, and for you sports bettors out there, let's be honest, you probably need a little bit of help beating those books. System capping is a proven long-term winner against the sports betting market in multiple sports. He's built a worldwide clientele due to his high winning percentage over the years. Be sure to click the link on the bio down here to check out his profile, and you can also find out his resume.
Shop around, guys. Shop around, have multiple books, and get the best proper price out there. I stress that every time, and it's super important. It's very important to beat the books long term. I see it all the time. Books vary. Even the NFL. I started handicapping NFL. I started to have client plays already, and there's some difference in spreads per book, right? 0.5 here, pricing, totals. Maybe this prop is different lines. So it's very important to have multiple books throughout the market. Let's get right into it, guys. Let's get right into it. Main event, ADESANYA minus 600 versus Strickland plus 450. The only reason why Sean is here, I guess two things, right? The division's a bit of a mess right now with the South African Duplessis unable to take this fight due to injury. Israel wanted to fight Strickland. Israel said, I want to fight Sean Strickland, and he loves to be active. He's not one of these guys that just fights, once a year. He loves to be active. So that's why they put this fight together. Now, does he have a chance to win this fight, Strickland? Not really. Let's be honest here, especially if he tries to do the man dance and he just tries to stand and bang with his... It's not going to be the path, right? Strickland actually said it perfectly this week. During his interviews. This is how I thought he should win the fight, and this is what he needs to do. He needs to make it ugly. He needs to bring out his inner Kevin Gastelum, is what he said, to make it a war. That's his only path. That along maybe with mixing in some wrestling, but we just don't see it from him. We don't see it. He was training it in camp. His coach said, will he do it? I don't know. Sometimes he wants to just go fight and put his fight on the shield. Like... Listen to your coaches. Understand the game plan. You just can't trust that with Strickland. You just expect him to go out and try to stand and bang with ADESANYA. It's not going to play out well, most likely. Right? You saw it in the Pereira fight. ADESANYA is just as good, if not better, on the feet using his distance game and range. It's not a good idea for Strickland to fight the way he usually fights. Now, if he brings... Now, what I like from him, he does bring that pressure. If he continues to bring the pressure... get in his face, get it against the wall, maybe try to mix in a few takedowns, see if that works. He does have some solid takedown defense, unless your name is Jan. So you got to understand that Strickland needs to make it an ugly fight and an MMA fight instead of just a boxing fight, kickboxing fight to try to win this. There's really no secret about that, right? There's definitely no secret about how ADESANYA wins this fight. and what Strickland needs to do to make it a competitive fight. The toughest part here, in my opinion, is to decide on an outcome, which I'm great at doing, and I love doing, find outcomes to get the better price, especially at minus 600. Let's be honest, you cannot bet ADESANYA minus 600. For you big parlay players, sure. But even a 2-fight parlay, which I play, and I like to do it 70% on the year, the minus 600 is just not going to, it's not going to help out in a 2-fight parlay, right? So I cannot bet that. So if I look at an outcome here, obviously 5-round fight, so always 5-round fight, I lean more towards the finish. But the finish price is around even money, minus 110, minus 105 out there around the market. Not great pricing. And Strickland, tough guy. Besides the Pereira knockout, you don't see that happening. I think Strickland will be a little more cautious with that due to him learning that Pereira. He went out and trained with Pereira too for this fight. Keep that in mind. So hopefully they have a game plan there to avoid it. But yeah, a decision plus 140, it's very even, right? Market doesn't really know. I personally, I guess, would favor the market with the market as well as with the finish. Maybe later in the fight due to Strickland attempting to bring the fight to him and maybe him getting somewhat tired later in the fight. He did travel also to Australia. Traveling schedule does favor ADESANYA here. One thing to mention here on that I guess is negative to ADESANYA. Now, everyone handles it different, so I can't say it's technically negative for him, but he did release a movie. He was doing a lot of work for that this past week. Could take your mind off the fight a little bit. Could be taking Strickland a little easy as well. That's the only thing that I can put on a negative to ADESANYA, but hey, everyone handles that differently, so I can't say it's going to affect ADESANYA personally. I don't know him. Only he knows that, so keep that in mind. So yeah, the play is going to be ADESANYA to win the fight. Tough on outcome, guys. I lean the finish, but I'm not excited about it. It probably won't make my client card. But if I had to bet a fight, play in this fight, it's going to be ADESANYA by finish. But hey, I would, I don't like. I could definitely see, a decision win here for ADESANYA, picking him apart on the feet, just winning the exchanges, landing the bigger shots, hurting Strickland probably in this fight at some point, catching him with a big shot, maybe not knocking him down, but hurting him at some point in this fight. I could see that as well, and just doing the more damage, in my opinion, even though Strickland does have some good defense. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes all 5 rounds. So keep that in mind. Play obviously ADESANYA, but just very tough to bet him at this price. Volkov minus 250 versus TUIVASA plus 210. Interesting one here due to me seeing a little value on the home fighter just from that aspect. He does have some KO power and is tough as nails. But on paper, when you look at it more, when you dig into it more, Volkov should be the favorite. A 2-1 favorite I agree with. I don't disagree that Volkov's a 2-1 favorite here. He's going to have a size advantage, a wrestling advantage here, more technical striker. Right? It's just tough to me backing Volkov at 250 due to TUIVASA. Fighting at home, like I mentioned, taking some time off after 2 tough losses, right? Lost to Pavlich, Russian fighter, and then gone. Right? So he took about a year off to, I guess, refresh himself, to see, take some time, he mentioned, with his family, just kind of get away from the game and get ready for a big fight, probably his biggest fight, especially it's at home here against Volkov. Now, Volkov's been looking very, very good, right? Back-to-back finishes over some tough guys. Volkov's been around the block. Has fought everyone, pretty much, right? And he seems like he'd put it all together a little later in his career here. And, if he wins a couple more fights, he's not far from a title shot, right? If he knocks out TUIVASA here, one more fight and a win could put him into title shot contention, depending what happens up top. But, he's going to have to go on another little run here. That would be 3 fights in a row over some good names. So I can see, Volkov being up there for discussions if he can get the win here. Now, value, like I said, with TUIVASA plus 210. Gun to my head. Like, I wouldn't call you crazy to put a little smaller unit on TUIVASA at plus 210. And why not take a knockout shot? Do I see TUIVASA winning a decision? Probably not. right? Just due to how he fights. Not a technical guy. He's a scrapper. He wants to go in there and find your head and knock you out. Volkov, if he mixes in the wrestling, right, he's going to win this by decision, landing more shots. He's going to have more volume. So it would have to be TUIVASA by knockout, but let's go back to this and let's look at the numbers and look at Volkov's resume. He's never been knocked out in the UFC, guys. Right? Never been knocked out. He's been submitted before, but we know TUIVASA is not going to submit him. So that's where I get hesitant again. Should I, play a big knockout price for a smaller unit? For a smaller unit, I wouldn't call you crazy, like I said, but he's never been knocked out in the UFC, guys. Right? Volkov's looking good right now, fighting well. The matchup seems to be fairly good for him, and if he uses MMA's game plan here, he mix in some wrestling, he should win this fight. I could say almost fairly easily. So it's hard for me to pull the trigger. The logical play would be Volkov on paper. TUIVASA is not a crazy play due to the pricing. There is some value there. KAPE, minus 400. This number continues to climb. I saw that minus 350 before versus ADESANYA, plus 300. Ugly line here. I get it. KAPE should be favored here. SANTOS taking this on short notice. 22 years old, making his debut. What other more red flags do you need than that sentence right there? He does fight out of Charles Oliveira's camp. Shudo boxing, keep that in mind. You could probably obviously tell due to the haircut and the dyed hair. I don't know a ton about the guy. I watched some tape on him. Wasn't too impressive or great. He fought in LFA, some regional scenes. This was supposed to be Kara Francis fight. Keep in mind, he pulled out. KAPE wasn't happy about it. He was not happy about it. He expressed how angry he was. That would have been a good fight. KAPE versus Kara Francis. This is setting KAPE back, right? Fighting DeSantis. It's a risky fight. Risky fight for him, even though I do think he should win this fight. The line tells you that. DeSantis hasn't fought for over a year as well, which is a little bit concerning. It is a huge opportunity for him. Don't get me wrong. It's just there's no way really I see how he wins this fight. And somehow he catches KAPE. Maybe some sort of armbar submission or something. But if you look at the more numbers, look more deep into this KAPE, minus 400, we cannot bet that. Sure, it could fight into a 2-fight parlay if you can get another favorite at lower cost here. But like the finish prop and the outcome is minus 150 in a 3-round fight and a flyweight fight. I can't get there, guys. There would have to be more value with KAPE by decision. If you can get a nice plus money by decision, I would maybe lean more that way. But KAPE does find finishes, and that's what I like about him. I actually like watching him fight. He goes for finishes. He has 10 TKO KO finishes, guys. So, I can see KAPE finding a finish here at some point, maybe later into the fight, due to DeSantis, again, making his debut, 22 years old, taking on short notice. Nothing is in his favor here. So, KAPE wins this fight. It's possible it could make a 2-fight parlay piece for me this weekend if I can find a lower value guy. So I'm not paying minus 120, minus 130 on a 2-fight parlay. We try to avoid those. TAFA, minus 225 versus Lane, plus 185. Guys, I thought I never would see the day TAFA's minus 225. If you bet TAFA at minus 225, you do not know how to bet on the UFC. Now, could he win the fight? Sure. Fighting at home, has the power to knock out Lane. And I'm not high on Lane. Right? Lane's not a good fighter. But this is low-tier heavyweight guys. I do not bet low-tier heavyweight guys. If I do, it's usually value. You just cannot lay minus 225 on a low-tier heavyweight guy who's 6-3. Now, sure, I lean him. Gun in my head, you ask me, Matt, who do you take in this fight? It's going to be TAFA, minus 225, because he's fighting at home. But, guys, Lane, ex-NFL player, he's going to be super athletic, a lot more athletic than TAFA. TAFA's just a big guy, he throws and bangs. Lane maybe is in working on his wrestling or grappling. I don't really know. I don't follow Lane, and you shouldn't either. But there is some concerns here at this price. I get it. He's fighting at home. One also thing, his brother just won a big fight a couple fights ago. That could carry over here with some momentum. I'm not going to bet this fight. I advise you to stay away as well. I come from a betting standpoint, right? I'm not here to tell you to bet every fight. That's not a smart way to bet the UFC. I tell you where there's value. I tell you where, you should stay away from. And this is a fight you should stay away from. Play is TAFA for video purposes. I always give my video play out to you guys. But I'm staying far, far away. TAFA should never be 2-5 favorite, even if he's fighting me. PEDRO minus 110. Another hometown guy versus TURKALJ. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's a Swedish fighter, minus 110. Another hometown guy in PEDRO. And this is a 50-50 fight. It's telling you that. PEDRO, I think it came down, though. The Swedish fighter was closer to a pick, plus 110, plus 105, plus 100. Now it's coming to closer. I think the books are starting to realize that the Swedish fighter has some advantages here. And, he lost back-to-back fights. Now, that always intrigues me. When a guy loses back-to-back fights, obviously it just means maybe he should and he's going to get cut next fight. Right? That could be an aspect of it. But it always tells me, the guy's going to come out top effort. He could get cut if he loses this and loses 3 in a row. So that always has me concerned. And it always has me to look at it twice. So when I look at the Swedish fighter, he's going to have a big wrestling and grappling advantage in this fight. Cardio advantage as well. PEDRO, one-round type of fighter. He has power to hurt you on the feet. Good striker, boxer, kickboxer. I think he does have a slight advantage there. But the Swedish fighter, guys, has a wrestling advantage, and he could lean there and tire out PEDRO throughout this fight. He does have over 6 takedowns per 15 minutes. Not a ton of fights, I understand that. But that's a high number. So if he leans on that against PEDRO's 52% takedown defense, the Swedish fighter should win this fight. Now, again, fighting at home scares me a bit with these Aussie fighters. Hard on their sleeve type of guys. He could easily win this fight. Like I mentioned, it's a 50-50 fight. But the path is there for the Swedish fighter to make it boring. Wrestle. We've seen he can take a shot, the Swedish fighter. Right, in his last fight. I think he won fight of the night in his last fight due to taking some big shots. But if he uses a game plan of wrestling, getting this fight down to the ground and winning there, I expect him to win this fight fairly, I wouldn't say easy, but he should be able to keep PEDRO down there and win that way. So I'm going to lean the Swedish fighter here. Probably won't make my client card due to PEDRO fighting at home. That will do it, guys. That will do it. Another UFC card will be in the books, pay-per-view card. We got fights all year long, back-to-back. I don't know if there's any more breaks. There probably is around in December, because December they always come out with that big card, so I expect a break around then and obviously around Christmas. But yeah, look out for the NFL video coming out on Friday. We're back to 2 videos a week. So yeah, thank me later. That'll do it, guys. Like I always say, bet smart and know your limits. Take care.